This presentation is designed to help teachers new to the Utah Rise test platform. The website for the Utah Rise portal is found at utahrise.org. If you do not remember this address, you can simply Google Utah Rise and it will be one of the first choices. Our agenda includes an overview of Rise, Rise testing resources, preparing students for the Rise test, what needs to be done before testing, during testing, and after testing, and frequently asked questions. Let's quickly review the Rise test, what is being tested and how it is being tested. The Rise test is Utah's end-of-level test for English language arts and math for grades 3 through 8, science grades 4 through 8, and a writing test for grades 5 and 8. The test questions are proprietary to Utah. Utah teachers created the questions and they continue to write new questions, so the questions belong to Utah and not the vendor. The tests are adaptive, meaning the test selects the next question based on the response to the previous question. Because the tests are adaptive, students will not see all of the same questions, nor will they necessarily see them in the same order. The Rise test is not a time test. However, the test is standardized and designed with a set time frame. As seen in this chart from the USBE, the ELA math and science tests are designed for most students to finish in 90 minutes, and all students to be finished in 135 minutes. The writing test is designed to be a quick write, so most students should be finished in 60 minutes, and all students should be finished in 90 minutes. USBE checks the time spent testing, and evidence shows students taking longer than the designed time frame score significantly lower than those who finish within the prescribed time frame. Most schools administer the test in 45-minute sessions for ELA, math, and science. Notice that this column states most students should be finished, and the times for each test listed below. When you are nearing the 90-minute mark for the ELA, math, and science test, or the 60-minute mark for writing, you will want to check on the progress of your students. If you have students that will need more time, you will need to contact the district assessment director by phone, text, or email and request more time. You will need to provide the following information: the number of students testing, the number of students needing more time, and which test they are taking. If more than half of the class are going to need more time, the assessment director will allow you to have another 45-minute session and ask you to reach out again if there are students not finished at the 135-minute mark. If there are less than half the students needing more time, the assessment director will tell you, let them finish. Note that there is not a time frame given by the assessment director with this statement. You will let them finish the test with a few extra minutes or an additional session, whatever they need. This last column states that all students should be finished and the times for each test listed below. If you are approaching the indicated time for a test in this column, you will need to contact the assessment director by phone, text, or email and request more time if needed. You will need to provide the following information: the number of students testing, the number of students needing more time, how much of the test is completed, and which test they are taking. The assessment director will determine if it is appropriate to give a time extension. If a student has spent 135 minutes, which is 2 hours and 15 minutes, and they are only about 60 to 70% complete, it might be better to thank the student for their efforts and excuse them from the rest of the test, since at this pace they will be taking up to 4 or more hours on a single test. If they are close to finishing the test, the assessment director will say, let them finish if they want to. This will then require the teacher to ask the students if they want to finish the test. If they do not want more time, let them leave the test unfinished. If they want to finish, give them whatever time they need to complete the test. To be clear, let them finish means give them whatever time they need to finish the test. Give them another session means give them another 45 minutes and then report back to the assessment director if more time is needed. And let them finish if they want to means they can quit if they want to, but they may have as much time as they need to finish the test if they so desire. We will now go to the Rise portal by typing in the URL utahrise.org. This is the home page for the Rise portal. You do not need a login to access this page and some other resources. In fact, this page is a great resource for parents as well as for teachers. Once you have accessed this page and before you do anything else, please take a moment to click on the link Subscribe for updates, found in the light blue button at the bottom of the page. This will help you inform any changes to resources. This action is highly recommended by USBE. A very important link on this portal is the Contact Help Desk. The button is found at the bottom left of the screen. Clicking this link will show the support email address and the toll-free number to be used to contact the vendor. We have found the email link to be the most productive contact source. The RISE resource link found at the right side of the page includes a TIDE user guide, the test administration manual, test blueprints, scoring rubrics, training resources and materials, benchmark previewing, training tests, technology and reporting resources. Selecting the resource link brings us to this page. Notice there are several pages of resources available. The TIDE user guide is probably the best resource for new RISE proctors. Selecting this link opens a new page. The table of contents of the TIDE user guide lists pages containing instructions on how to perform the various tasks in TIDE. You will want to download this resource and save it where you can easily find it. The how-to list includes tasks to be completed before testing, tasks to be completed during testing, and tasks to be completed after testing. You should refer to this document often. Back on the page listing resources, we notice that the TAM, a very necessary resource, may not show up on the first page. Rather than seeking it page by page, you can simply type TAM in the search and it will be brought out to you. You will want to download the resource and save it with the TIDE user guide. The TAM contains the required script to be read when starting a test session. We will now take a look at the RISE blueprints. The link is found at the left of the page and brings up a list of blueprints available in the middle of the screen. This provides us with links to performance level descriptors and blueprints for each subject. Let's look at the math by selecting the math blueprint link shown here. On the next page, just click on the math again to access the blueprints for math. On this page, we can select the desired grade level blueprints. We can see that in grade 5 there are 50 questions on the test. There are between 16 and 20% of the 50 questions on the operations and algebraic thinking category. Between 30 and 36% of the questions are from the number and operations and base 10 category. Between 28 and 34% from the numbers and operations with fractions category, and between 18 and 22% from the measurement, data, and geometry category. We also are told that there are between 16 and 28% of the questions that are a depth of knowledge level 1, between 50 and 64% from a depth of knowledge level 2, and between 10 and 24% from a depth of knowledge level 3. Going back to the home page for the portal, we will now look at the RISE training test for students to practice using the tools found in the testing platform. It is not for practicing test items from their core. The practice tests contain questions that have been discarded from the RISE test. They are not grade level specific. They are designed to prepare students for the environment and tools of the testing platform. It is strongly recommended that students be given an opportunity to use this resource. Clicking on the training test icon, you will land on this page. There are two icons available to you on this page. The first icon will take you to a page where you can sign in as a guest or with your name. The second icon lets students access training tests set by the teacher in order to practice a testing session as a class. You do not need to select either of the two choices on this page. You just click on the green Sign In button found at the bottom middle of the page. This is how parents and students at home will access the practice test. On this new page, click on the Select Grade button to access the drop-down menu and choose a desired grade. Remember that the practice test will be given as a grade band and not as a specific grade level. I will choose grade 4 for this demonstration. These are the practice tests for grade 4. Notice that there is a practice writing test for grades 3 through 5, even though the test is only administered in grades 5 and 8. The ELA and math tests are for grades 3 through 5, and the science test is for a grade band of 4 through 5. I will select Start Math grades 3 through 5. Notice that there are 99 practice test opportunities for the students. At this point, students are allowed to select the desired settings. I recommend not changing any of the settings unless they are needed, such as a student with hearing impairment needing integration with assistive technology. To move on, simply click on the green Select button found at the bottom of the middle of the page. On this page, students can adjust the volume of their headphones or earbuds. They can change the volume, pitch, and the rate of speech with these sliders. They can press the speaker button to activate the computer voice and then make any needed adjustments with the sliders, and then press the speaker button again until they have a good working text-to-speech source for their test. When adjustments are complete, press the green I heard the voice button. This will take you to the next page. On this page, you can review your test settings that you just set or access the help guide, but usually students will only press the green Begin Test Now button found at the bottom of the middle of the page. We are now presented with the first practice question. This icon will open a drop-down menu that will allow a student to have a question read to them by pressing the Speak Question choice. This icon will bring up a dictionary and the student can type in a word in order to get the definition. Notice that this tool brings up an English dictionary, a thesaurus, and a Spanish translation dictionary. To use a Spanish dictionary, type in a word like subtraction and then press the Spanish tab. The word resta is subtraction in Spanish. Clicking on the word resta toggles back to English. Click on the X at the top right of the dictionary tool to close the dictionary tool. To select your answer, you can click anywhere on the line of the desired response. Clicking one response will darken the choice on the left. Clicking on another response will change your answer. Once you are done with this question, select the next icon found at the top left. Notice that after you have moved to the next question, you can move back to the previous question by selecting the back icon found at the top left of the screen. We will not complete an entire test here. You should see that there are many parts of the testing environment that students need to be familiar with in order to keep the testing platform from hindering students' ability to properly answer test questions. If you do not provide an opportunity to practice a test in your class, please invite them to take a practice test at home so that they become familiar with the testing platform. We are back at the RISE portal homepage. The tied link is a very important link. This link requires you to sign in. Your username is your full email address. Your password is the one you set up. If you do not remember it, click on the red Forgot Your Password link found under the password box. We will not go into this link at this time. Remember that there is an extensive how-to resource for all tied tasks found in the tied user guide, located in the resource section, and I suggest that you save it where you can find it easily. Before testing, you will need test tickets that have students' SSID and their first name. This is the same login information for any RISE test. You will also need Chromebooks for each student with the app Secure Test Browser on their home screen. You will want to create a sign for your door that says Testing Do Not Disturb in order to limit unwanted distractions during the test. Other materials and preparations you will want include a session roster. You can print a list of student logins in case a student ticket ends up missing. You will want to check that the headphones are available and working, since the tests include text-to-speech options, which every student has access to. Students can use their own headphones or earbuds if they wish. Gather scratch paper and pencils for students. The scratch paper can be blank, lined, or graph paper. It cannot be a graphic organizer. This does not preclude the students from making a graphic organizer once the test has started. You will want printed scripted directions. Remember, these are available in the TAM starting around page 148. You do not need to print the entire TAM, but the few pages containing your scripted instructions should be printed out. Calculators are not permitted in grades 3 through 5, even if the student has an IEP or 504 for calculators. In grade 6, students will have a calculator tool on the second part of the test. In grades 7 and 8, students can use a calculator on any part of the test, so long as it cannot access the internet. Before the testing session begins, cover or remove all visual aids in your classroom such as word walls, number charts, or anything else that can be used by the students to answer a test question. As students come in to take the test, banish all electronic devices such as cell phones, smartwatches. If a student needs such a device to monitor their blood sugar or for any other health issue, the device should be where you can see it and know that it is being used for that purpose and not to access the internet. Read the directions as written in the TAM. Directions are specific to each test, and you must read the directions verbatim in order to ensure the standardization of the test. Remind students of the time for the session. They should gauge their progress by knowing that they should be about half finished after the first session, if the session is about half the time frame. You will launch the test session on your computer. You do this by pressing the Select Test button found at the top right of the screen. Then press the Start Session button and write the test session code on the board. If there is more than one test selected, you will have a separate code for each test. Once all students have logged into the test, They are waiting for you to let them into the test. You do this by pressing the Approvals button. Before pressing this button, review each student's test details, and then press the checkmark button next to their name. You now monitor the students in their test session table. To stop a test, press the red Stop button next to the test session ID. An example of when this would be necessary is if there is a fire alarm during the test. During the test, you are actively proctoring the test. This means that you monitor the student progress. Issues concerning poor proctoring have included students that have copied and pasted the same sentence over and over again for 20 or more pages. An active proctor would notice that his screen is rapidly filling up without much typing occurring. As an active proctor, you can and should answer questions about the testing platform or interface. You can help students navigate and use tools such as the scoring rubric for writing tests and the dictionary. This guidance can be given as needed, but you cannot answer contact questions, nor can you answer with a negative or positive when students ask about verifying an answer. These are a violation of assessment ethics. Manage student time and breaks as you would normally. However, a break of 20 minutes or more will lock the student's test so that they cannot go back to look at previous questions. Make sure they are using the time for the test and not just sitting there. Keep them moving and on task. After the test session is complete, read this ending script from the TAM. Students will save their tests if they are not finished. Students can only submit a completed test. If a student is not going to finish the test, have them save it, and it will eventually close at the end of the testing window. You can end the session, but this action will kick all the students out of the session, so make sure that they have saved their test first. Once the session is ended, students will be able to start up where they left off, but they will not be able to go backwards to previous questions. Collect and destroy all student artifacts associated with the test, such as test tickets and scratch paper. Now let's answer some frequently asked questions about RISE testing. Question: when will teachers be able to see the scores? Answer: test scores are available immediately. Once a student clicks Submit, they will see a score. Teachers will see scores in the reporting site within 24 hours. The reporting site shows summaries. Most writing tests are available within 24 hours, but there are a few tests that are pulled for human scoring to verify the computer scores. These will take a few days to show up. Remember, these are raw scores. Question: can student scores be used in a student's grade? Answer: RISE test scores can be used to improve a student's grade by showing evidence of competency. However, you can never lower a student's grade with a RISE score. You do not need parental permission to increase a student's score using RISE as a demonstration of competency. Once again, the score can be used to improve a student's grade, but cannot be used to lower a grade. Question: what do we do with students whose parents have opted them out of the RISE test? Answer: if a student has been opted out of the RISE test by a parent or guardian and is in school the day of the test, you must provide an alternative educational activity. You could, for example, have the student work on a Utah Compose prompt. You can also provide an alternative assessment covering the core instruction you have provided throughout the year. Do not make this experience punitive. It is to be considered as an alternative educational opportunity. Question: do we really need to have 2 proctors for each RISE test? Answer: yes. If something happens, like a student becoming sick in the test, one proctor can take care of the sick student, take them out of the room, and help them while the other proctor continues to actively monitor the test. Some schools will have a second proctor out in the hall monitoring a couple of classrooms that are testing and can help with the scenario I just described. Remember that leaving students to test with just another student in charge is a severe ethics violation. Question: what do we do if a student has started or even completed a test and then their parent or guardian opts them out of the RISE test? Answer: invalidate the test in TIDE and then enter the code 204 parental exclusion if the class is still taking the test. If the class is still taking the test, you will need to provide an alternative educational experience, so be prepared as this happens frequently. Question: what is the real difference between practice tests and benchmark tests? Answer: the practice tests are not grade level specific, so they are not standard specific. They are designed to provide students with examples of all assessment types and the tools needed to answer them. The purpose is to familiarize the testing environment and tools found in RISE. The benchmark tests are grade level and standard specific. They are short tests that will provide practice on some test items associated with the test, but they are for content practice. Students receive a score on benchmark tests that could be part of their grade, or used by the teacher to evaluate class progress on a standard. Question: are students new to the country really required to take the RISE? Answer: it depends on the entry date. If they have enrolled in school for the first time before April 15th, then they are to take the test, but the score is not used to measure school proficiency. It is used for a baseline for next year. If they arrive on April 15th or after that date, they do not take the test. It will benefit these students greatly to see how to access the English-Spanish dictionary in the assessment platform. Question: what if a student has worked a session or two and their test will not reopen? Answer: have their testing coordinator or administrator enter an appeal request to reopen the test. They do this in TIDE. You will need the student's ID and possibly the session ID for the test that is closed. Once the appeal request is created, the assessment director must be contacted in order to approve the test. This can be done within a few minutes, but communication is vital in the process. Question: what if a student finds something in the RISE interface that is not working, like the sound or one of the tools? Answer: have the student save the test and then attempt the test on a different Chromebook. If that does not fix the problem, you will need to contact the vendor's help desk. This concludes our introductory training on RISE testing. If you have further questions, please read the TAM and refer to the TIDE user guide. If you still have questions, contact your testing coordinator or the district assessment director.